Hello, this is Sarah V, and today I am finally going to be tackling my Halloween costume. And I am going to be kind of like a little 1950s inspired witch. I am going to be using Simplicity 9632, and I am going to be combining the top of this jacket with the top of this. The fabrics I am going to be using are this orange taffeta, and I'm going to be using it for the top. This flocked satin with a little kind of scrolly floral pattern for the skirt, and then for the cuffs and the collar, just some black satin. So I do know that there is less fabric yardage wise in here than there is for the actual skirt, but the pattern pieces are just rectangles, so I'll make do with what I can. And also I think either cut off 1 or 1.5 yards from the bolt of this that I have, but it's also like I think 108 inches wide, so we have more than enough yardage of that. And I have some scraps of this, but I think I also cut off a yard of this too. I pre-washed everything just in case I need to wash it at some point. No surprises. Just two little babies sitting together. Oh, Babu and Wee Wee. To start things off, I am just finding the pattern pieces I need and separating them by what fabric they will be cut out of. I was actually 1/4 of a yard short, and I ended up folding up 1.5 inches from the hem, and this allowed me to fit all 4 panels. I will use the remaining 1/2 inch for seam allowance and put a hem facing on. I added 1/2 inch to my bodice because it seemed a wee bit short when I compared the pattern to my torso. And I also sized up the peplum proportionately to how I sized up the bodice because I am between pattern sizes. It is the next day, and now I am cutting out the contrasting cuffs and collar, which I forgot to lengthen at the waist. Oops, and I didn't notice it until I attached it to the bodice. After marking many darts and pinning everything I can together, I can now move over to my machine. Funny enough, halfway through, I had to switch machines, which is funny because I somehow managed to sew crinkle chiffon on the beige machine, but it revolted against the taffeta. What it would do is randomly, the spool would just like jump, and then underneath the throat plate, it would make a nest. And it was just so frustrating, and I've had it happen before in the past, and it's just horrible. I don't know how I got away with the chiffon. Two bobbins later, and I can begin sewing my cuffs. The inside seam of the cuff is sewn first, followed by sewing the center back neck together for the neck facing slash collar contrast. And I think Scooter has found a bug behind the window blinds, and I thought he looked really handsome. I can now sew all the skirt panels together, leaving one partially open for the zipper insertion. The cuffs are now sewn together, all of the points accounted for. Many gathering stitches are added to the top of the skirt before I can move on to trimming and clipping seams and turning the cuff points. The sleeves are sewn up, followed by all of the darts, 3 on each front piece and 4 on the back. The peplum seams are now sewn, followed by sewing the cuffs onto the sleeves. Now the peplum is assembled, each point in its place. The center back collar seam is sewn up before attaching the back of the neck in a most annoying maneuver. After this, the facing slash contrast for the collar can be sewn on. After clipping and trimming the peplum, I can trim and clip the collar facing. Now the peplum can be turned out and pressed. The side seams can now be sewn up, leaving the one side open mostly for the side zip. The sleeves are now able to be inserted, and I remembered how stiff taffeta was when I tried it on. I quickly sewed the inside collar up, along with the cuffs, and went forward in making my buttonholes and sewing my buttons on. Now that the front closes, I can baste the peplum on and gather the skirt into the bodice and sew it in. After this, I can finally put in the side zip, stopping to work around the peplum and changing threads to match and hide the lap zipper better. I had no time to do a hem facing and just did a wee turned up serged hem. After sewing on a couple of snaps to close the peplum, she is done. This is how she's turned out. I think she's turned out quite cute. I have been quite busy lately, and some of the things I wish I would have been able to do, I didn't have time to do. She's a pain to put on, so I am going to procrastinate the final reveal until I make the hat, which I'm hoping to get out on Tuesday, but I haven't started it, so yeah. Up next, we will be making the witch's hat, which will be part 2. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, and if you would like to see more fall sewing content, please subscribe. If you would like to see what I'm up to day to day, feel free to follow me on Instagram at SarahVSewsVintage. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time.